Hello students. Now what I'm going to talk about is the last chapter what we're going to do, that is disaster management. So we are going to study about disaster management. In this we are going to learn about the different types of disasters. What is a disaster? What is a hazard? Vulnerability, the difference between a hazard and a disaster, the capacity to cope, the effects of disaster, disaster management cycle, disaster preparedness, mitigation, disaster response, recovery, rehabilitation. So all of these things which are somewhere related to disaster and make up for this whole chapter is what is going to be covered in this. So let's begin. Now, in the beginning itself, they've given you a table um, where they've asked you all, they've given you all the year, the disasters, the different types of disaster. An earthquake is a disaster, a volcano is a disaster, tsunami, flash floods, hailstorm, cyclone, rail accidents, landslides, release of gas, methyl isocyanate, Bola cyclone, all of these are the different disasters. Where have they occurred, in which place, location, and the number of deaths? There are certain questions which have been given on this, and those questions are to be answered on the basis of the table which is given. Now, when I begin with disaster, let me explain you all simple meaning of disaster and then we'll proceed with everything. Natural disasters have caused widespread loss of life and property. Human beings are now becoming more aware, and various steps have been taken at different levels to reduce the effect of disasters. Identification and classification of disaster is considered the first step to deal with disasters. Now, it is not something which is a new phenomenon. Disasters have been there since mankind, and there have been natural disasters. Some are avoidable, some are unavoidable. And disaster, when we talk of it, it is basically loss to life and property. Now, there is a lot of awareness which is being created due to advancement in technology. We sometimes know that this certain place in a part of a country is going to go through a tsunami, or there's going to be a outburst of a cyclone. So because of that, we are aware. We know in advance the weather forecasting, if you all seen various news channels. So we come to know that what kind of weather is a particular place going to have for a period of time, and all of that. So here what has happened, because of this awareness, human beings are becoming more aware and they are taking steps at different levels. Like if there was a tsunami or a cyclone at some place, recently there was a cyclone which had occurred near the West Bengal as well as certain parts of Assam also. So people were, disaster management or drilling was already done. Uh, there were various things, they were quite alert. There were a lot of other things they were well prepared with. The governments were very well prepared with over there. So whether in Japan also or where any other place in US, so they know how to take steps, and at what level, as and how the level increases, how to reduce the effect of disaster is something now human beings know. They can identify which type of cyclone, what is the severity of the cyclone, and they can be classified also from by the experts through technology. So this is considered the first step to deal with a disaster. Now, the types of disasters, there are different types of disasters depending on their origin, means from where they've come. They can be tectonic disasters, that is earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis. So when they are tectonic disasters, they are plate tectonics play a very important role in that. Example, the Great Tsunami and the earthquake of Indonesia occurred on 26 December 2004. Geological, landslides, mudslides, avalanche. Example, the Malin mudslide of the 2014 in Maharashtra. The third is meteorological, that is flood, cyclone, storm, heat, wave. The floods of Kerala 2018. Biological is the locust attacks, pest attacks, epidemics such as flu, dengue, cholera, etc. Example is the Surat plague of 1992. Anthropogenic or man-made type of disaster is industrial accidents, transportation accidents, nuclear accidents. Example, the Bhopal gas tragedy 1984. Thus, we see that disasters can be natural or man-made. Some disasters can be prevented. Generally, man-made disasters can be prevented as they happen due to mistakes or carelessness by humans. Thus, disasters affect human population while some ever may occur only in nature. For example, volcanic eruption is a natural process which cannot be prevented. Such natural events are called hazards. Now, certain volcanoes, which Mount Etna is an active volcano. Now, these active volcanoes cannot be prevented, as in they are natural. So, these natural processes, they are natural processes which cannot be prevented. Now, there are, as I read to you all about the different types of disasters, these natural events basically they occur in nature and they cannot be prevented. When they occur and which cannot be prevented are called hazards. Now, this disaster affects human population while some may occur only in nature. Some occur in nature and some have very huge effect on human population or in that particular area. When they occur in areas inhabited by humans and cause damage, they are termed as disasters. So when there is there's loss of life and property, there's damage, then it is termed as disasters because they occur in those areas which are inhabited by humans. Such events are called disasters. Now we're coming to hazards. What are hazards? They are phenomena that pose a threat to people, structural or economic assets, and which may cause a disaster. So when we talk about hazards, what are they basically? They pose a threat to people, structural or economic assets, and cause a disaster. They could be either naturally occurring in the environment or man-made. So certain things are natural which are unavoidable and man-made can be avoidable. So hazards can be like that. Thus, high rainfall is a hazard as it may cause floods which may be disastrous. Now, when there is heavy rainfall for a long period of time, there is a possibility of floods which can be disastrous. So, this is a hazard. A hazard becomes a disaster when it affects human population, settlements, and their activities. When does this hazard become a disaster? When it affects life and property. It affects the human population or the settlements, the different kinds of settlements which are there in that particular area and their activities which are being conducted by the humans, then it becomes a disaster. Now, the difference between a hazard and a disaster is disaster and hazard are often used interchangeably, but they are two different terms. A disaster is a result of the impact of a hazard on society. Disaster is more of an anthropogenic concept. Anthropogenic concept means basically it's a man-made concept, while hazard is a natural process. It is a result of natural process. An earthquake or a storm occurring anywhere in the world is a hazard. See, earthquakes, volcanoes, certain active volcanoes, a storm, they are these naturally occurring things. So they can occur in the world anywhere and they become a hazard. But the same event, if it is occurring in areas where there is human population, then it becomes a disaster. A disaster occurs when the people are unable to cope with the impact of the hazard. Basically, when does a disaster occur? When when does it turn out to be a disaster? When people are just not able to or to are not able to cope up with the impact of that hazard. With this hazard, what happens? It causes death, injury, loss of property, and a lot of economic loss. Then we talk about vulnerability. What they are talking about vulnerability in this is, in the example given in the table, we find that population vulnerable, vulnerable, vulnerability basically is nothing, is like you are susceptible to harm easily. So in the examples given in the table, we find that population certain living in certain areas are exposed to particular disasters. In the above example, in case of cyclones, people in the coastal areas, now particularly when we talk about coastal areas of India, they are more likely to be affected than those in the interior. People living in seismically active areas are prone to earthquakes. At times, the social, economic, and political conditions may make people or more likely to be affected by disasters in the same region. So, these people basically living in the coastal areas are prone to cyclones. People who are living in seismically active areas are prone to earthquakes. So, because of these social, economic, and political conditions, it may make people get more affected by these disasters over and over and time and again in the same region. Now, the poor are more likely to get affected by disasters. You had heard about the Assam floods recently. How was their condition? They were not able to recuperate for, or probably they'll not be able to recuperate for a period of long time, because it needs a lot of inputs, capital investments. Where will the poor put in all that money, time, energy to just build up their house again? Similarly, old people and children can easily become victims of disasters. Old people at a certain age, you cannot take any kind of calamity. Then, if you talk about densely populated areas, they are more likely to be affected than sparsely populated areas. So, densely populated areas are more likely to be affected than sparsely populated areas. The geographical conditions and circumstances of people or region that make them susceptible to a disaster is known as vulnerability. The geographical, I repeat, what is vulnerability? The geographical conditions and circumstances of people or region that make them susceptible, easily prone to a disaster is known as vulnerability. Thus, if you are more vulnerable, you have to be better prepared. Now, what does this sentence specifically mean? That if you know that my region, where the place where I am residing is susceptible to a certain kind of disaster, I need to be prepared time and again. In Japan, they are known for typhoons, tsunamis. So their houses are built in a manner wherein the loss is not as much as expected. So in our country also, if we can get back certain technologies and they get their expertise wherein how we can build up or sustain a disaster, is something which we should look forward to. And if we are better prepared, we can reduce the risk of getting affected by the disasters. it is very clear. When you are prepared that a disaster is bound to happen, it happens quite frequently. So the population over there is not affected as much as a population somewhere which has not gone through the disaster gets affected. So it mentally also you are prepared, and you are basically somewhere, you know, physically also you know that what are the repercussions of going through a disaster. So till now what I have covered is disaster. Let's understand what according to WHO disaster means, and American Red Cross, what does it mean. A disaster is any occurrence that causes damage, ecological disruption, loss of human life, deterioration of health and health services on a scale sufficient to warrant an extraordinary response from outside the affected community or area. So WHO defines, World Health Organization basically defines disaster in that manner: damage, ecological disruption, loss of human life, deterioration of health and health services, sufficient to warrant an extraordinary response from outside. So the response has to be twofold than what the damage has been done to the outside, to the community from the outside. Then according to the American Red Cross, what does it say? A disaster can be defined as an occurrence, either nature or man-made, that causes human suffering and creates human needs that victim cannot alleviate without assistance. Now over here, according to Red Cross, it's in simple terms. Whether it's a man-made or a natural disaster, it causes human suffering, loss of life and property. It creates human needs. Now when these needs have to be fulfilled, the victim should the victim will fall short of certain things. So basically there are some organizations which come out, and Red Cross in particular comes out in elevating that kind of loss without without expecting anything. It's just a help organization wherein it provides assistance, it provides help to a greater extent. What we studied was natural disasters and man-made disasters. When I spoke to you all about meteorological disaster, that is weather forecasting, through weather forecasting, flood, cyclone, storm, heat wave, and they have given an example in the textbook, that's the floods of Kerala of 2018. Then topographical also is there, environmental disaster is also there, technological disaster is man-made, industrial disaster, warfare, all of these are also man-made disasters. Now when we talk about natural disasters, see, look at the things what come under these different types of disasters: flood, tsunami, cyclone, hurricane, typhoon, snowstorm, blizzard, hailstorm. When we talk about topographical disasters, what do we mean by topographical disasters? Topographical disasters are earthquake, volcanic eruptions, landslides and avalanche, asteroids, limnic eruptions. Then when we talk about environmental disasters, what is environmental? Climate change is the biggest disaster right now. Global warming, El Nino, southern oscillation, ozone depletion, the UVB radiation and the solar flare. So these are the categories which come under the various disasters. Then when we talk about the man-made disasters, under the man-made disasters, when we talk about, I spoke to you about technological is transport failure, public place failure, then fire. When we talk about industrial disasters, chemical spills, radioactive spills. Then when we talk about warfare, now warfare, definitely there is an environment in the world which is tense between, I mean, any two countries. If you take, there are different tensions amongst two countries. So I wouldn't name them, but you all are hearing it in news through various channels. War, terrorism, internal conflicts, civil unrest, CBRNE. So these are also the disasters. So how many disasters I covered in each was, when I spoke about natural disasters, there are meteorological, topographical and environmental. There are tectonic disasters, which we know, earthquake, volcanoes and all of that. Those are topographical also, they can be called as tsunamis. Geological is landslides, mudslides and avalanche. Biological is there's one more disaster, that's biological: locust, pest, epidemics such as flu, dengue, cholera, all of that. And what are the man-made? Technological, industrial, warfare. Now, coming to these disasters, what we can understand is uh, the capacity to cope. Now, how do you cope? What kind of capacity is there or needed? The ability of people, organizations and systems using available skills and resources to face and manage disasters is known as their capacity to cope. How well prepared are we as victims, and how well prepared is the government, or how well are they prepared as in technically to cope with this kind of disaster, any kind of disaster. So the ability of people also, the different organizations, whether it's World Health, there is Red Cross, there are other UNESCO, all of that, and systems using available skills and resources. Now, skills and resources of that particular country, and sometimes some other countries also participate if there is a huge loss which is being faced by a particular country. And how do they manage disaster is known as their capacity to cope. Thus, vulnerability is reduced if the capacity to cope with the disaster is high. If your capacity is more, better or good or best, so you are less vulnerable. Basically, that's what it means to say. For example, in 1999, the cyclone had caused 10,000 deaths. But in 2019, only 89 deaths occurred due to a cyclone. Now, why did this happen, students? Because this shows that the capacity to cope has improved. Basically, the capacity to cope has improved. Then coming to hazards, basically more so what I can talk about hazards is any phenomena that has the potential, it has the potential to cause disruption or damage to people and their environment. So when there is damage and disruption onto the normal working system, in the normal working surroundings, then it is a hazard. So a hazard basically is a natural event, while the disaster is its consequence. Understand this very important statement. A hazard is a natural event, while the disaster is its consequence. A hazard is perceived natural event which threatens both life and property. A disaster is a realization of this hazard. So when hazard involves elements of risks, vulnerabilities and capacities, they can turn into disasters. Hazards may be inevitable, but disasters can be prevented. Now, when you all get difference between a hazard and a disaster, you all can add some more points from this slide and you all can proceed. So this is a good slide wherein you all can put some more points where differences between a hazard and a disaster is concerned. Now, symptoms after a disaster. What are the symptoms after a disaster? There could be psychological symptoms. Yes, there is huge loss of life and property. There is cognitive symptoms, emotional symptoms, and behavioral symptoms. So, when we talk about this, what could be the psychological symptoms? Fatigue, you're in a state of shock, profuse sweating, fine motor tremors, chills, teeth grinding, muscle aches, dizziness. At one point of time when a disaster occurs, that time your mind is totally blank. You don't know how to react. Cognitive symptoms, memory loss, people who are very, very soft, they basically, their effects are very bad. Memory loss, distractibility, reduced attention span, decision making difficulties, calculation difficulties, confusing trivial with major issues. Emotional trauma is something very different and it's not possible to get over a disaster so easily. So there are feelings of anxiety, overwhelmed grief, lots of grief, identification with victims. Yes, we sitting on in some place and a place when we watch on television that there is a disaster which has taken place. We empathize, we have sympathy, but beyond a certain point, we become helpless. Yes, you can help them through various ways, but what they are going through at that point of time is something that they know better. Then there is depression, anticipation of harm to self or others. Sometimes you are in that state of mind where you don't know what to do, and your whole world has come down and you don't know how to set up, or you feel that this is the end of my life. So this is the situation emotionally what some people go through as they can't handle it. There is irritability. Then behavioral symptoms, insomnia, substance abuse, some people get into drugs, gallows humor, gait change, ritualistic behavior. Then there is hypervigilance. Then there is sometimes there's unwillingness to leave the scene. So these are certain symptoms after the disaster. As I came to the capacity to cope, I told you all what does capacity to cope mean. And I gave all in the textbook there is an example that what was the situation in 1999 when there were 10,000 deaths, and what is the situation now wherein there are the deaths have reduced to 89 in 2019. So when your capacity to cope is high, the vulnerability is low, it is reduced. So basically, that's how do you cope with certain situations and how strong you are. Then you feel that every other problem in front of you is small. So what we are going to do is in the next class, I will be covering more so the effects of disaster, the disaster management, and all of those. Till now, in this, what I have covered is what is a disaster, what is a hazard, difference between disaster and hazard, the types of disaster, extra more different types I had told you all. I spoke to you all about capacity to cope, what exactly does it mean, what is vulnerability, and what does it mean, what is the definition, how is it used, the symptoms of a disaster, which kind of symptoms does one go through. There are emotional effects, or you can say behavioral effects, what I discussed, then there are mental cognitive effects. All of those effects I had, or the symptoms what I had discussed. More I will be talking about the effects of disaster and other things in the next class. Thank you, students.